Nashville pottery. I built a camper van over COVID, quarantine, whatever you want to call it. So restaurants and bars and all of that stopped. I was like, all right, full-time pottery, here we go. All of that was going pretty well. I started working with an interior designer, and she was just like, I want 50 giant bowls, and I want this and this and this. Her name was Kim Gold. She's a wild entrepreneur. She started True Religion Jeans. A friend of mine was working for her and was like, hey, you should probably come work for this lady and like make some stuff. Like, we're doing massive amounts of pottery and this is like right up your alley. I was going to Thailand right before COVID, got back like 5 days before like everything shut down. And I was like, all right, well, we can meet. And she's like, yeah, this is what I want. Started making stuff, and then the orders just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was cool. I mean, we had, probably like a year of making stuff together. During that time, I would do these orders, and it would take me 2 or 3 weeks, and then I would go camping in the camper van that I was building at the time. So I would like do something, make some pots, go camping, and be like, maybe I'll add this, and I'll add this. And when you're in the mountains, and you have like your camp set up, I was like, this is great unless you want to go like run and grab something from the store. You got to take everything down, especially if you're in a van. So I had a motorcycle at the time, but it was too big to fit in the van. I was like, I'm gonna rent a scooter for the weekend, go up to the mountains. And then I came back and I was like, I need one of these. So I bought this from this guy, and he just had a kid. He was like, I don't wanna risk it. And I was like, okay, well, you do you. But yeah, now it's just sitting here covered in dust, but it will ride again one day, I promise. It is fun to like watch this place grow, and it's fun to like build, and like I do enjoy some of that. I can see it and I can do it. And when it's like I need to send an email to 10 people at the same time, I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I have started to do like more experimental work. Before, when I was doing pottery full time, it was like, well, I can make this with the time that I have, or I can make this and I know I'm gonna sell it. So I didn't do a lot of like really risky, weird, like not sure if this is gonna work. It was like a quarter of the time I would try that, but a lot of the time was just like, oh, all right, let's just make the stuff that you're gonna sell because you have bills and all of these other things. And now, not that I don't have those things, but it's like the classes are doing well enough for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna spend some time doing some stuff that I want to do, which is making like funky, weird, abstract vases, or playing music, or hanging out with friends, or going for a motorcycle ride, or going hiking, or camping, or things that are outside of here. This is Banjo, our resident jungle boy, studio mascot. He's been here for about 2 months now, and is pretty chill. Hasn't broken anything yet, surprisingly. He loves this bowl. He'll just crawl in there and like chase his tail around. He also will get in like any pouch. I've seen him just chill in an apron of like a one-time student for like an hour, just like, wow, such a model. These and this and the legs are from a local painter. His name is AJ Smith, and he reached out about putting some stuff here for sale, and I was like, yeah. So I went and checked out his gallery, and then I was like, I think these are cool, because everything in here is like very white and wood, which I like, but it's kind of cool to have like these little pops of color. I just like his style. I haven't had a ton of time to make stuff for like this wall, gallery space, whatever you want to call it. This is just like kind of a random. I've been building other things, and I'm like, okay, that's not a priority. But along the way, I have done some stuff. You can see a bunch of different finishes and a bunch of different clays. This is your brown clay that has like little bits of iron that pop out in the firing. And then, your classic white on white, crate and barrel style. And then you have funkier stuff like this. This is a pit fire. You like throw it into a fire pit and just comes out how it comes out. That's very similar to like raku and soda fire. This is very unpredictable of what it's gonna look like. So I think for me, that's exciting. It's like you can kind of duplicate, like this, I could make the exact same thing just over and over and over. Whereas like soda and raku and these funkier firings, it's cool when you're just like, oh, let's just see how it comes out. You're also a lot less emotionally attached. Like when someone breaks something here, I'm just like, oh, like, and they're just like, what are you, a psychopath? And I'm like, no, it's just, that's happened 1,000 times. You can always make another one. Which is not really the mentality you should have, but when you own a pottery studio, I guess that's the way it works sometimes. This is a slab rolling table for hand building. Essentially, you're rolling out like giant cookie sheets of clay. We do a hand built mug class. You roll out a slab, you wrap it around, attach it together, put a base on it, make a handle, put a bunch of stamps, you know, make something funky. It's a lot easier way to make something than doing it on the wheel. It's a slower pace, and you like have a lot more control over, you know, what it's going to look like. A lot of people will do these classes and then try like a hand-built class or a sculpture class and be like, wow, this is like definitely more my speed. This bar will go up and down and smush clay, and then you can get it paper thin to an inch thick or anything in between. Let's tighten it a little bit. Like that, basically. My neighbor and I, so I had a guest house, and my neighbor and I shared the backyard. I was like, let's make ravioli, pasta, something, and we're like rolling out this dough, and I was like, I've got a machine for this. Put down some clean plastic. It wasn't great, but it was better than doing it by hand, that's for sure. All right, so this is phase 2 of the studio. The front section, I was like, let's just get this open, get some classes rolling. This was a nightmare back here. I had just stuff everywhere. The floors weren't done, the walls weren't done. This room wasn't even here, the big pink, basically that's the kiln room. Essentially, when you make something in whatever class, whether it's an intro class, an ongoing class, a workshop, hand building, sculpture, whatever, you make it there, and then it comes back here pretty much for the rest of its existence until you take it home. This is the greenware shelf. Essentially, this is just drying clay. All of this stuff is very fragile. Like if I dropped this, it would just shatter into 100 pieces. These are fired pieces. If you drop something here, it would just probably like crack in half. So it goes from there to the kiln, then it comes out, it's bisqueware, and then you glaze it, which is down here, goes back to the kiln, and then it comes here, and this is the finished product. Because this is not as exciting, you just pick a color at the end of the class and then come back and get it a couple weeks later. This is a plaster table for wedging, drying, recycling clay, glaze lab, wall of color. This is your like color wall of all of these different combinations of clay and different glazes. So there's porcelain, dark clay, brown clay, speckled clay, white clay, everything in between, and then those are all here and the buckets under the table, and essentially, you know, that's how you do the glazing process after it's been bisque fired, and then it's finished. So it's not quite like paint, it's more of a chemical reaction. It essentially just turns to glass. You can drink out of it, put it in the microwave, dishwasher, whatever, just as you would any other dish anywhere else. This was all in the front room together. So this is the expansion in phase 2. We'll do a cool funky mural and some more pottery wheels and probably more shelves. Essentially, the answer to all of the studio problems is more shelves. All of these things, I'm just like, let's just build it. So I've gotten pretty good at building things the last couple months. So the rejects are either not labeled, too much glaze, the bottom's not clean enough. These are generally ongoing students. And I hate to call them rejects, but you know, you gotta learn some way. Not a neat freak, because it's like, it can only be so clean in a pottery studio, right? I just like organized, you know? But these are reclaimed buckets. When you have like that, you know, the stuff that I was cleaning off my hands earlier, you know, that just like slippy mud, all of that goes in here, and then it separates, and then essentially you put it on the wedging table, dry it out, and use it over and over and over. So if I was making that big vase earlier and it just crumbled and fell, or I was like, I don't like it, and I smashed it, that and all of the crumbles and all of the little trimmings, you can just turn into something else. When I'm teaching intro classes, a lot of people will get to a certain point and then it'll just, and I'm like, hey, don't worry, it'll be a future masterpiece, just not today. I like being here, and you know, have spent a lot of time here by myself doing just countless hours of work, but it's also, I think there's the saying of like, you know, if you find what you love, like you'd never work a day ever. I'm like, that's like, I work myself. So I want to just go hike in the woods and listen to a waterfall for like 3 hours in a hammock and watch a trail of ants, you know, like, that might drive some people crazy, but that's kind of what I enjoy. Let's go hike, jump in a waterfall, then lay in a hammock for a couple hours. That's like a good day for me.